Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we explore ways that you can save time and money using Liquidware Stratosphere. I'm just going to give it just a moment and we'll get started here. We got a few people joining. Wanted to everyone kind of get settled in here and we will get this rolling. I do want to mention while we're waiting that we have started our Ford Bronco giveaway again. For those of you that are joining this event, maybe this is the first event that you've ever joined of XenTegra's. We recently gave away a Ford Bronco to one of our customers. You definitely have to enter to be registered. I've got to be in it to win it. So if you would like to potentially be the lucky recipient of a Ford new Bronco, definitely recommend going out to this website. Make sure you register so that you can be entered into that giveaway. We'll go ahead and get started. Just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Randy Price. I'll be your host today. I live outside Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been working in this industry for 20 plus years, specifically in that end user compute space. I've been with XenTegra for about 5 years now. If you've had an opportunity to engage in one of our Citrix or VMware complementary assessments, there's probably a good chance that I was involved in that. One thing to note on that, and we can talk about this a little later, we do offer these complementary assessments utilizing Liquidware Stratosphere. So once we get in, you kind of find out what sort of information you can provide there. If you're interested, definitely reach out afterwards if you want more information regarding that. Today, I do have the pleasure of having Liquidware join us. We've got Chris, Johnny, and Tom on. Guys, I'm just going to let you guys introduce yourselves individually. You guys will probably do better than me at that. So, Chris, you want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Randy, and thanks for having us on the event today. My name is Chris Walker. I'm the subject matter expert for Stratosphere for North America. I work with all of our largest customers in helping them understand the Stratosphere data integration with other platforms. And at the end of the day, really, if they have a problem, they call me or Johnny or Tom, and we help them out with the diagnosis and help them point them in the right direction.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, Johnny Ma. I'm a senior solutions architect with Liquidware. I cover multiple territories at the moment, and help everyone out with Stratosphere, Profile Unity, Flex App, whatever it may be.
Appreciate that. Tom?
Yep, Tom Wynn here. I'm also a solutions architect for the South and the Southeast region at Liquidware, and I have about 20 years experience with VDI, and we leverage Stratosphere to increase productivity in the environment.
Appreciate that, guys. Real quick, I'm just going to switch back gears. For those of you that are not familiar with XenTegra, I do want to mention real quick, we are a national reseller. We invest heavily in our partnerships with the end user community. We provide expert services along with carefully selected products to our end users or customers, rather. We really focused on customer enablement through events, workshops, and webinars such as this one. And the goal there is wherever you are in your digital transformation journey, we can help you to become successful. This is Andy Whiteside. He's our founder and CEO. Andy founded XenTegra on the principle of serving that end user community, which, like I mentioned, we continue to do today. We are a value-added reseller providing consulting services, no matter how big or small the environment. We also provide managed services to help support and manage your digital workspace environment. And I kind of mentioned this earlier, but if you haven't taken advantage of one of our complimentary assessments, that is another value add that we bring. It's kind of unique versus other partners. Definitely highly encourage you to do so. These assessments are provided at no cost for up to 4 hours. Provide a lot of value and detail. And again, I mentioned if you guys are interested in engaging in one of these, and again, we can pull Stratosphere in as part of this if that's something you guys are interested in. Follow up with this after this session for more details. I do want to quickly mention as well, since you guys are joining this event, we do have some other events coming up. I do want to call out from a Liquidware standpoint, we have a Liquidware Flex App workshop scheduled next month on the 18th. Highly recommend you guys join that as well. The registration is on our events page, so definitely go check that out. So real quick, we're here today to learn how to save time and money utilizing Liquidware Stratosphere. But before we dive straight in though, I feel like we should give you a quick overview for those of you that are not currently familiar with the capabilities and what Stratosphere can provide. Stratosphere UX is a monitoring solution, right? That focuses on that end user experience. And when we look at it, it has many advantages when it comes to monitoring end user workspaces. They really were the pioneers of the digital experience scoring and workspace transparent and providing workspace transparency across multiple platforms. Another major advantage that they provide is, or Stratosphere provides rather, is the integration it has with outside solutions, things like ServiceNow, Remedy, Power BI, which can be used to create custom reports, generate tickets, be used in asset management, whatever it may be, right? We'll talk about some of that a little later as well. But really, Stratosphere provides some of the most expansive set of metrics when it comes to monitoring the end user workspace. Being able to provide time-based metrics, which is very crucial when we're talking about root cause diagnostics, being able to drill down within 5 minutes. I'll take a moment and pause here. When we're talking about monitoring, there's a lot of players in the space. Some of you may be familiar with ControlUp, for example. I do want to mention, I feel like I should mention that those of you that are familiar with ControlUp should understand that Liquidware is not really considered a competitor to ControlUp, right? ControlUp is a digital experience platform. They like to say they provide management and automation. They don't really like to consider themselves to be a monitoring solution more than a management automation solution. I like to use the analogy of, to consider this, a patient having some sort of issue going to an emergency room, right? ControlUp is like the ER, right? It's performing the triage for that patient to help determine very quickly, how can I stabilize, right? What do I see? What are the symptoms? And I can uncover those. Whereas Stratosphere, I compare that more to the diagnostic test, something like an MRI, a CAT scan, where I'm doing that deep analysis, right? Trying to uncover what is the root cause. I have a lot of customers that are utilizing both solutions together just for this reason. So again, don't really consider those to be competitors. Really, they work very well together. Another kind of differentiator is Liquidware Stratosphere works across all major end user workspaces. This could be AWS, Azure, Nutanix, Citrix, VMware, Azure Virtual Desktop, and even physical desktops, right? And being able to provide metrics related to the applications in use, the users, the network, the endpoints, all of this correlated together in one solution. So before we dive in too much further, I do want to talk about the architecture of Stratosphere and how it works. Chris, would you like to take this one?
Yes, sir. Yes. So basically, Stratosphere is a virtual appliance. Very easy to power up. We have virtual appliances for VMware, Red Hat, Hyper-V, XenServer, Acropolis from Nutanix, Azure, Amazon, and even Google GCC platforms. So you power up your virtual appliance in your environment, put a license on it, download the agent. That agent is keyed to your system. And then we have Windows, Linux, Mac, iGel, Tenzig, Stratodesk, all kind of different agents that can be deployed around your infrastructure to really give me an end-to-end visibility of that user. So Randy Price sitting at his house, monitoring his Wi-Fi statistics. He's 15 feet away from his access point. Maybe he's sitting in his lazy chair with his computer on top of a pillow, and his computer is trying to keep from melting down, so it's in heat protection mode. So all of those statistics are monitored, even the display protocol, so ICA for Citrix, VMware, you have Blast and PC over IP, Azure, you have RFX, so all of the metrics related to that user. But this is a hardened Linux operating system certified by the U.S. military, and basically you power up the virtual appliances. When you're ready to do an upgrade, you press the upgrade button, you go have lunch, come back, and it's upgraded to the new version. So it's a very easy to deploy platform and gives you a huge amount of metrics. Randy, next slide. So from a metric standpoint, this is just a small sampling of the different type of metrics: battery charge level, your Wi-Fi statistics, what SSID, or even more important, BSID for like the mesh network that I have in my house, a Google Mesh. How far am I away from the access point? Is the firewall enabled? Windows update's been run. the manufacturer version, applications installed versus used. All of this data is captured on all users, all machines, all applications, all the time. So, and I'd back up what Randy said earlier too. I'd say probably 80%, maybe even 90% of my customers that have Stratosphere also have Control Up, because we do two different things. You know, they can collect a lot of this data too, but you have to be on the machine and collect it at that time. So if the machine rebooted, they don't have that data. Stratosphere would have that data archived, so I can take a problem that maybe I found in Control Up and go search Stratosphere and show me all the other users that may be having this problem. Because they got a Microsoft mouse with a particular version and it's having a problem with ICA, you know, something that crazy, or an audio driver, the headset that Randy likes in his environment, you know, maybe that headset that's plugged in that computer. Stratosphere knows all of that data. Next slide.
And you guys also give the ability to really drive down into, from a time perspective, right? Having a 5-minute drill down back from a historical standpoint. So looking at things like group policies that are being applied, you know, 3 months ago versus now, and how's that trending affecting? You guys have that sort of capability. So very, very
login
powerful.
breakdown. Login breakdown, one of the biggest things in login breakdown is verifying that sites and services is set up properly.
Correct.
Everybody I talk to, my sites and services set up properly. Well, here it is in Stratosphere. Why are your users in North Carolina hitting a domain controller in Canada? Ooh, I didn't know that.
Right.
Very easy to determine that problem just with one click of a mouse button in Stratosphere.
Yep. So knowing all this, and again, that was just kind of a very quick, brief overview of Stratosphere. How can I use this to save time and money, right? When I have all of this sort of information at my fingertips that Stratosphere is collecting, you know, how can I utilize this? And we're going to talk about some of those use cases. And here's our first use case. Chris, you want to speak to this one as well?
Yeah. So everybody knows Stratosphere from a diagnostic perspective. CPU, memory, disk, network, temperature, all that stuff. But a lot of our customers are mining our data and pulling them into Power BI, into Tableau, into ServiceNow, Remedy ticketing system, even Excel spreadsheets. So here's one. We've got several customers right now that Johnny and I are working with, you know, acquisitions and divestitures. I'm a hospital. I just bought another hospital. What did I buy? Deploy Stratosphere in that new environment that you don't know. You know, hey, they said they had 1,500 computers. They said they were this age. You'll know the exact age, all the applications installed, what are those applications talking to, or even another spin on that is a divestiture. I'm getting ready to sell off this division or separate from my parent company, and I didn't know my assets. What assets do I have? What applications are talking to corporate assets? So I need to move that database into my network. So this gives you that information to really help you determine how can I separate from a company, or how can I've just bought this company, how do I integrate them into my environment? What do they have? You know, they told me they had all the machines were less than 2 years old, run Stratosphere. All these machines are trash. They need to be thrown away because they're 5 years old. Next slide. All right, so license recovery. This is one I've had customers where this is actually paid for Stratosphere multiple times over. Think about everybody in your company, 10,000 users. Everybody said they needed Visio. Okay, so I bought a license for everybody for Visio. Stratosphere lets me know, hey, Visio's installed on this machine, and only 100 people are actually using it on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. So by recouping those costs and redirecting that money, even Snagit, the Windows snipping tool is now built into Windows, and it's been around for a while. It does a pretty darn good job. So I can tell how many people are actually using Snagit because I bought a commercial version of Snagit for 10,000 users, and again, only maybe 1,000 people are actually using Snagit. Everybody else is using the snipping tool that's built into Windows. The license recovery, and that number from CIO.com, that was recently updated this year. That's average $259 per user that I may be able to recover unused licenses. You get into more expensive stuff like AutoCAD and things like that, and it really adds up quick. One customer said, look, I've recovered $500,000 in software. So it's a no-brainer. Next slide.
Okay.
Physical asset recovery. I had a large hospital do this several years ago, and it's becoming more of a trend, especially in the COVID time, is I gave all my users had a workstation in their office. Then they needed a laptop because I sent them all home. Then I bought them desktops to go in their house. So which machine is actually being used? So understanding those physical asset usages, because I have to upgrade them. I have to continue to upgrade all the software, maintenance renewals, heat, power, all that stuff. I bet you that Randy has a computer in the office, or somebody has a computer in the office, but they're sitting at home, most of the time on their laptop. But that machine is sitting in the office and running. So being able to recover those physical assets or redistribute them, so that brand new workstation sitting in Randy's office at XenTegra headquarters, they can redistribute that to somebody else because Randy's at home all the time working on his laptop. This particular customer, in the large hospital, he was able to reduce his fleet, his physical fleet, by 5,000 machines, literally turned them off and sold them. So very big recovery on, that's just the physical machine. Then you got the software licenses, the man hours to maintenance all those machines, upgrade those machines. So that, don't forget about those physical assets that are sitting out there unused.
That's a good point.
Downtime avoidance. So many customers have called me and said, or sent me emails and said, hey, Chris, my login time just went from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. But it didn't do it, it's been slowly creeping up, and I can't figure out when it started. So Stratosphere, because you can see these trends, you can graph the CPU, you can graph the login information and start seeing trends in the environment and hopefully catch it before it gets to that 2-minute login and everybody's complaining. So I went from 30 seconds to 40 seconds to 60 seconds to 90 seconds. What's going on? So I want to catch it before I get to that 2-minute limit, that 2-minute login time, and avoid any downtime that may, because it's a corrupt domain controller sitting out there, which could be really bad. And I've had this happen to customers where their login time started to get longer and longer and longer. Sure enough, a bad domain controller in the environment corrupted the entire Active Directory structure. Weeks to come back online. Next slide.
Another thing to kind of point out there too is just the fact of being able to, like you said, having this as if you're rolling out new applications, right? What sort of impact are those applications having? What are the Google task scheduler update service that's running, or all of these things, right? What sort of impact is this having on my VMs, as well as, altogether, what's the impact on that physical host, right? Having that sort of visibility. So,
we have a customer over in the Carolinas, and it's a bank, and before they roll out any new apps, virus scanners, anything, they will deploy it to about 1,000 users that are monitored with Stratosphere, and they're their testers. They'll monitor those machines and the make and model, because I know the make and model, and after about, I think it's 30 days, they'll look at that data in Stratosphere, and it's a go, no-go. Can my fleet support this new application or even this new version? Because as applications get upgraded, they're adding on new versions, and all of a sudden they've added something that my fleet, that's maybe 4 years old, it can't handle it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, avoiding that downtime, because I can see how it's going to affect that old HP ZBook that's 4 years old out in the field, and it's just going to kill the CPU if I roll out this new feature that everybody wants.
That's a good point.
Security posture. So since 2020, COVID time, we sent everybody home, and guess what? Those laptops are in the hands of these people's children. And those high schoolers are very crafty. So they're logging into those machines, creating local accounts, sometimes disabling your firewall, depending on how secure you got the machine locked down. So Stratosphere, we added in a lot of security monitoring. Is the firewall on? Has the firewall ever been turned off? Has the firewall been updated? Are you getting your Windows updates for the machine? Is the drive encrypted? Is the TPM chip updated? All of this stuff to make sure and be able to report the security posture of your environment. One of my customers in Florida actually pumps this data into Tableau and monitors all the stuff in Tableau for, I think it's 10,000 users, and he can report the security posture of the entire company on an hourly basis. It also plugged it up to ServiceNow, and if you turn off your firewall, there's a ticket open immediately, and you're getting a phone call, and your VPN is disabled. He automated the fool out of that. Basically, you shut your firewall off, it fires a ticket into ServiceNow as well as the VPN software and disables your VPN capabilities. So very cool technology, again, using our API to integrate with other platforms. And at the end of the day, the security posture of 10,000 users on an hourly basis.
That's huge. That's huge. I can see that being beneficial just from a cybersecurity perspective, right? You've got all these insurance requirements these days. Just being able to report on what's available, what's configured in the environment, right? So
we're actually working, that's an interesting point. So your development team is the one who built our integration kit for ServiceNow. So they're working on right now what they're calling the, I think, XenTegra Stratosphere Power Tools or something like that. And this is going to be one of the use cases that they're actually going to automatically build inside of ServiceNow. So you'll be able to download this or purchase it from XenTegra, and inside of ServiceNow, it would automatically be able to alert you on all of this stuff because we've already built all the logic out.
that's very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of other examples, right?
Yep. Yeah, just a few others. Cloud savings. Do have customers who are using this to adjust their power settings. So I turn everybody on, and I don't know how they're going to use the system. Some people will be in there once a day. Some people will be in there, every day for 8 hours. So using this data, they can actually automatically adjust the Amazon power settings. So Randy Price uses his machine every day, 8 to 5 Eastern. And then when he's done, because I can monitor that in Stratosphere, I'm automatically going to power that system down. So saving a huge amount of computing power. On the other hand, Johnny, because he has a very powerful Mac, he only goes into Amazon once a month. So I'm going to leave him basically, so his machine will only power up if he connects into the system. So he's got to wait a little bit for it to power up, but still saving a massive amount of money. Outsourced call center, staff reporting, e-discovery. So I have done several over the years with Stratosphere where customers call me and said, hey, we just fired this guy and I need to know everything he's touched. Every website, every application on his machine, how much data was he transferring, was his firewall enabled because he's suing us or we're suing him. So, it's a bad part of the product, but e-discovery inside the environment. Then client data. iGel, love the platform, but they have no integration capabilities with ServiceNow. So now I can get the iGel data, performance information, make, model, serial number, and the user into ServiceNow. So I'm kind of a bridge for that platform to get that data, that iGel information, and other providers as well into ServiceNow for the ticketing people.
Hey, Chris, you and I were actually playing with that on the e-discovery piece. We're going to talk about process optimization coming up, but, we went in there and we were playing around on how to actually lock that user out so they couldn't do anything. And, you could put things like explorer.exe and task manager as processes that are auto-terminated. And basically you log into the machine and it's very blank. You can't do anything. Yep. So that person that was on the brink of being terminated while, all this stuff was being figured out for them, they couldn't do any more harm or copy any more data or steal whatever, proprietary information or all that stuff that was happening there.
Yeah. We had a customer who called us and said, look, I think this guy is doing something bad, but I can't tell. So we were able to look in Stratosphere, see that he had loaded Dropbox. It was transferring a massive amount of data. He had turned off his firewall. He hadn't done any Windows updates, and just not good stuff. So we used our process optimization technology to actually turn the machine into a brick, because they didn't want to fire him because they knew they probably were not going to get the laptop back, and we actually turned that machine into a brick. Yep. Shut down his Dropbox and turned it off. Yep. Next slide.
Okay. And I like to mention too the assessment of users, right? So just providing that sort of information. Oh. Yeah, I think that's a big one too.
Yeah. So there's two parts of Stratosphere. Stratosphere Fit is used to determine, is the user a good fit for VDI? So, and that could be cloud as well. So I'm going to use Stratosphere Fit to analyze the user on their workstation, how much CPU, how much memory, how much network, what applications do they use, and then that tells me what do I need to put in my base image as far as applications, maybe layer in stuff with FlexApp, things like that. And it helps me determine so that I don't fail. There's a lot of Citrix, Horizon, and even Amazon and Azure deployments fail because they didn't analyze the user.
Right.
They didn't go determine Johnny Ma is a power user. He needs 64 gig of RAM. He needs 6 CPUs because of what he does on his machine. They said, okay, all the SEs at Liquidware, 2 CPUs and 8 gig of RAM. And that may be fine for me because all of my stuff is in Stratosphere. But Johnny needs those virtual machines so he can run Profile Unity, do Profile Unity demos, so they would have failed had they not done that assessment using Stratosphere Fit. We're talking about Stratosphere UX, which is a diagnostic side. At the end of the day, it's just a license thing. You buy UX or you rent Fit, but if you buy UX, you actually get Fit. So, that assessment, I want to move from Citrix to Azure, from Azure to Amazon, from Amazon to Horizon, physical machine to any one of those platforms. Stratosphere Fit is used for that purpose.
I actually
So-
see it all the time where literally people are building, 8-core, 64 gig of RAM VMs in their data center. And then they have an initiative to move it to public cloud. And they just do that. Oh, we had this here, so we're going to move that there, like for like, without the understanding and implications on how much that instance costs for that size of that VM inside a public cloud. So,
Right.
that's the lick my finger and stick it in the air and see what the direction of the wind is blowing in. That's essentially what you're doing without something to understand what we truly needed to have.
Yeah, I mean, we've used this as well, just numerous times for customers that are, maybe I'm looking to move to Citrix or VMware, right? And they're not, it's a greenfield opportunity where, today the users are mainly using physical desktops. What does that look like? Am I sizing it correctly? What's, from a upper management, can I provide some sort of documentation showing what, from a sizing perspective, that we've done our due diligence, that we've looked at, what's the actual resources in use, right? And that's where this has become, very critical in that from a sizing perspective. So,
Think about it too. So I've got one customer, financial institution, and they're looking to move 8,000 users into, I think it's Amazon. But he's concerned about the number of images that he needs to manage because everybody uses different apps. Stratosphere knows that data.
right.
So we built him a Power BI interface where he's basically pulled it in Power BI. He can then click on the application and say, okay, well, if I do Word, I get everybody in the company. If I do Adobe Acrobat, I add another 8,000 people. So he's actually using it to determine what applications in combination can I get the most number of people into a single image. Very powerful.
Very powerful. Yep. And Johnny, you were going to speak to this. Kind of mentioned it already, process optimization.
Yeah, so process optimization in Stratosphere, it uses the same agent. So there's no additional agent to install to get the other benefits of process optimization. So with that said, the intent of process optimization is to just basically give you more bang for the buck, right? It gives you that PC lifecycle extension. It gives you more users on a machine if it's a multi-user type of machine. And basically how we achieve it is we actually can prioritize processes. So our processes are in focus. We can give it more priority for compute. And then when they're dropped into the background, minimize whatever you want to do with those, we actually deprioritize those types of things. People think a lot of this is just purely for the physical side of the world. There is use cases for the virtual side of the world as well, right? Not only do physical assets have, potentially dated cycles on, how old the machine is, CPUs, blah, blah, blah. It happens in the data center as well, right? During COVID, it was very hard to buy a new server because everyone was buying all those new servers. So just with that same thing, I can extend the life cycle of the physical hardware in my data center to give more density and those types of things on my virtual environment. Next slide, please. So we talk about the need, right? We talk about OS churning, applications, and understanding the workloads and the compute and resource consumption. And, every single one of these phases and pieces fit inside the need of process optimization, because consistently we're rolling new versions of Windows 10, Windows 11, whatever it may be, new application versions pop up. And if I can prioritize and give focus and priority to those specific processes just because they are, in focus on my screen right now, I can ensure that I get that good performance on those applications because, only people that write those applications truly know the actual impact of the next version to the stuff in the world, right? Next slide, please. So here's an example of what process optimization does. So in this example, we talk about the impact of it in terms of CPU queue, CPU percentage utilization, and things like disk queue and those types of things like that. So if you see without process optimization on, we have that 5.44 CPU queue, but with process optimization on, meaning we're actually giving that focus and priority to those applications that are in the foreground, we actually minimized the amount of CPU queue. For those that are not aware of what CPU queue is, it's basically outstanding transactions that are awaiting processing on a particular machine, regardless if it's virtual or physical or whatnot. So it's just a good representation of the impact of what Process Optimizer does. So a lot of folks don't understand, and they run other process optimization tools. You had the ones from Avanti, Performance Manager. You have the Citrix WEM, the Workspace Environment Management Platform. Those types of things have process optimization. And, when you turn it on and you custom tune it and you do all those types of things like that, and you don't actually truly understand the impact of it and what exactly it is doing to the environment. With our process optimizer from Stratosphere, you can turn on logging mode, and it's always highly recommended to turn on logging mode during the initial phases to just have a good understanding of what's being raised, what's being lowered, anything that's being terminated, all those types of things in there so that, you don't get any abnormal behavior in the environment. All right, I think that's good.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned earlier, or Chris has mentioned a couple of times, right? Another major benefit is just integration with other solutions. ServiceNow being one of those, and Chris has kind of already alluded to the fact that XenTegra in partnership with Liquidware to develop this ServiceNow-based integration kit. Chris, what have you guys seen from a customer perspective and how this has been used? I know you mentioned Agile. Yeah.
It's been very powerful. So, think about your person sitting on the help desk. Fresh out of college, they're sitting on the help desk. User calls up, "Hey, Randy Price, what can I do for you today?" "My computer's slow." "Okay, well, which computer are you on? Are you on your VDI session, your Amazon session, you're on your laptop, or you're in your office?" This gets the data directly in the hands of that person sitting behind that keyboard. So he would literally ask you for your login ID. He would know every machine that you're logged into, your Wi-Fi statistics at your house, so he can very quickly determine your issue and solve the problem on the first call. So instead of him just saying, "Hey, can you reboot and call me back tomorrow?" the help desk will actually have the data in their hands to diagnose your issue, and then as they get those tickets, they can then escalate it. "Okay, I've got 10 tickets today on login issues." Then they can escalate to the proper group, and then that group can go take a look at Stratosphere data in more depth to determine what's the root cause of this. Why did we have 1,000 tickets out of 10,000 users today that had a bad login experience, and they can go resolve it before the rest of the 10,000 people call in. So the biggest value here for the ticketing system, whether it's ServiceNow or any of the other ones, is to get that hands into the frontline workers so they can solve the problem and the ticket on the first call.
That's great. Like you said, there's some updates that are coming out. Definitely stay tuned for that. This has been a big hit, especially amongst those that are utilizing ServiceNow, right? And being able to, like you said, the integration with things like Agile, being able to pull that data in as well. So a lot of value this has definitely provided. So, we went through many different use cases, kind of talked around ways, non-diagnostic use cases, I'll mention as well, around how you can utilize Stratusphere UX. So I just ask you to consider this, right? Consider all the time you spent this past year, diagnosing issues, within your environment, especially where you were maybe had to engage in multiple resources, you're trying to collect data, when Liquidware Stratosphere has all of this data, right, in one central location. Think about all the downtime that you've had over the past year and how it has impacted your end users, right? From not knowing what sort of impact new applications, things of this nature is having on the environment. Think about the cost associated with acquiring, additional applications. For example, kind of mentioned the license, being able to recoup from licenses, right? Licenses that are not in use. Maybe you've got licenses out there that are not in use that's assigned to someone that you can reallocate to another user, maybe a new hire, right? By leveraging Stratosphere, we can save time diagnosing issues, downtime, reclaiming resources. We talked about a lot of those, right? Performing those assessments for those moves. Stratosphere can provide a lot of value above and beyond what we traditionally look at from a monitoring solution. We've discussed several ways today that Stratosphere can save you both time and money. And I do challenge you to consider engaging, with your XenTegra client executive for a couple of things. One, if you would like to schedule a demo, if you'd like to do a little deeper dive and see a demo of Stratosphere UX, or if you'd like to engage in a proof of concept, right? Displaying metrics and data from your own environment. There's nothing more powerful than being able to deploy a POC in your environment and see your actual data, right? And very quickly uncover some of these items that we talked about today, right? What's the utilization? What's, what applications are actually installed versus actually in use? That's very powerful as well. And the last thing, and I don't have it mentioned here, but I kind of mentioned at the beginning is, if you're interested in a micro assessment, one of those complimentary assessments that we perform, we can utilize Stratosphere UX for that as well and still provide you some of that data. So definitely recommend, kind of a call to action, reach out to us. We can definitely help if you'd like to, discuss any of these items any further. I do want to mention, for those of you that are interested in a POC, I do have the prerequisites listed here. Chris, you want to speak to any of these items real quickly? I know it's, there's a couple of items here. It's pretty quickly, pretty quick to get this deployed, right? That's not a big.
Yeah. Being a virtual appliance, literally you download the virtual appliance, reserve an IP address and a DNS name. Under 500 machines, it's just one virtual appliance. We do a 1 hour WebEx to get it deployed. Generally, it's about 30 minutes. We test the agent, then you can deploy the agent however you want to, come back a week later, and review your data. 9 times out of 10, I'm showing the customer things they did not know about their environment. Sites and services are messed up, broken group policies, old applications, machines that have been rebooted. So even during this proof of concept, and I would actually recommend very highly for people on the phone and other customers, get with Randy and do a micro assessment. When he does a micro assessment, goes through your environment and uses Stratosphere, he returns a massive amount of information. I've seen him do some of them, and it is just, for a free offering, I think it's worth $10,000. What the information that Randy gives back to you, it's amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Definitely, it is complimentary. Typically, like I said, there's a lot of value. I would say probably 95% of the time we uncover a lot of information, things that the customers just were not aware about. Especially when, it's a common sort of scenario where customers, when they engage in these, they typically are, wanting to make sure they're following recommended practices, or there's some sort of issue, right? Users are complaining around slowness, right? And being able to actually put some metrics to that, it becomes very valuable. So, real quick, I'm just going to pause for a moment, see if there's any questions. Definitely appreciate the time today. Hopefully you guys found this beneficial, learning, again, how we can utilize Stratosphere, Liquidware Stratosphere UX to save time and money. Again, being that repository with all of this information related to your environment, there's a lot of different ways we can utilize that information. So I don't see any questions.
Yep. Hey, Randy, Randy and Chris, a question came in, and I think one of the questions is, does Optimizer support Mac?
Does not. It's Windows only, but it is, virtual machines or physical, but yeah, no Mac Optimizer at this time.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Right, great.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I think another question just popped in. Let's just say the organization is releasing like a corporate update video, and they want to run this in Citrix. And when they do run it in, or not Citrix, not mainly Citrix, but VDI, Can Stratosphere tell us if the end users in that environment are actually going to that corporate website or going to YouTube instead to watch funny pet videos? And second part is, can we quantify if it's using how much GDI or video processing it's using?
Yes, definitely. So if it's Internet Explorer, we don't need a plugin. But at Edge Chromium or Chrome, there's a plugin, and I can tell you exactly which website they're going to, how much CPU, memory, disk, and network per tab, per domain, and how long they were even on the website. So had a hospital in Alabama where the HR department rolled out a new wellness program, and all of a sudden they've got 3,000 users going to this website, watching jumping jacks and all this other stuff, and it brought their Citrix environments to its knees because it was so graphics intensive. They knew it was in an Explorer that was causing the issue. They just couldn't tell what website. With Stratosphere deployed, they were able to see the actual domain and go and block it and bring the environment back online. But it shut the hospital down for several hours just because of a new wellness, and jumping jacks and all this other stuff.
For Edge and Chrome, some people will poo-poo the fact that we need an extension. The extension can be pushed out to the users very easily. It's the registry key to populate that for the user. Then the next time they load the browser up, they're good to go with that extension. So it's 100% transparent. You don't need the user to go out to the store and download something or anything like that.
And kind of piggyback on that, right? So when we talk about graphics, one of the things that I found nice was just, Chris, you and I had a customer we were working with, and just the ability to go in and see, how many monitors are attached to that endpoint, right? What is the resolution? Are these 4K monitors? Being able to provide all that sort of information was very beneficial as well. So
yeah, a lot of times people want to know that mainly. So do I need to buy NVIDIA cards? Right? Will they benefit me? And using Stratosphere data, it's very cut and dry. You either don't, based on GDI objects and some other metrics and CPU queuing even inside the system, and then when they do get a loaner or buy one NVIDIA card, we can track it and change the profile because I know, hey, these users are only using 512 meg of RAM, so I can do a 512 profile instead of the 2 gig profile I gave them. So yeah, graphics is huge, and people forget about that. We all know CPU, memory, disk, and network, but a user sitting in the field running 3 4K monitors is a lot different than a user sitting on a standard laptop with one monitor. It's a lot different.
And that even goes from, like you said, from an assessment standpoint, just being able to customers that are looking to embark on the Citrix or VMware VDI journey, right? And they're just starting, being able to get that detail from the physical workstations, right? Do I need a GPU? So it's great.
Yep.
I think that's all the questions. Appreciate the time today, guys. I do want to point out again, I'm gonna throw this back up on the screen one more time. Definitely go out and register for that Ford Bronco. Like I said earlier, you got to be in it to win it, right? So also would like to thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you to the Liquidware team for joining as well. Appreciate your participation. Again, if you guys are interested in that the call to actions I kind of mentioned, right? Whether it be, schedule a meeting with your XenTegra client executive to get a demo, a POC, or engage in one of those micro assessments, definitely reach out. We're here to help. So appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Have a great day.
All right, everyone.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.